Good afternoon, everyone. I had to take some inspiration from father. Uh, he told me to fight for my right, and I had to, voice out my requirement to be heard. So, thank you, Jose. Thank you for the opportunity. Just to set the record straight, my presentation, as per the schedule, was probably the first in the panel. But I can't tell you how glad I am that I'm probably the last speaker on this panel, because whatever I had thought and put together has been so beautifully articulated by every single speaker before me. Okay, here you go, and this is what I had put together without knowing what others were talking about. Just to talk a little about my organization before the presentation comes on, I work for a company called CBRE. We were very popularly known as CB Richard Ellis in our earlier avatar. We've dropped the Richard Ellis name now. We are a Fortune 200 organization. We are right now 146 in the Fortune 200 list. We are the world's largest advisory firm focused on real estate services. And we've been present in India for the last 25 years. This is in fact our 25th year, in India. And like Jose introduced, I've taken on a role very recently where we are going to focus a lot more on engagement with the government. We have, of course, been working with the government in the past, but we want to increase our mind share and time with the government. So could we move on to the first slide? So my topic that Jose gave me was on urban development and sustainability. And I had a dilemma in mind. I really didn't know whether it was a single topic or whether I need to treat it as two, right? Urban development is core to what we do. We are in the real estate services space. We do everything concerning real estate. And Vinamra has already spoken enough and more about what we do on the real estate side. But sustainability, we are all, are we contributing enough? And when I heard the girl Greta Thunberg, that is exactly the definition I had in my mind for sustainability. What are we defining as sustainability, right? Are we leaving a better world for our next generation? It's a very polite way of how Greta explained it. Are we stealing their future, right? So we thought I'll deal with these topics separately. Urban development, people from India, and I see a lot of people who are not from India. So for your benefit, India had an urbanization rate of 11% in 1901. We are, a few years back, we are already about 35% urbanization. And just for the record, we are about 125 crore population. That's a huge number. And what data says is we will very, very soon hit 40% urbanization rate, in the country. Vinamra also mentioned a few statistics. I am talking at cities at large. Our urban centers consume more than 75% of the energy and contribute about 80% of all the wastage that happens. Let's move. The urban population right now is about 400 million people, and very soon, before we realize, before a lot of us leave this world, our urban population would have actually doubled, right? And we are talking about 100 smart cities as we speak. And if I need to double my urban population, am I really looking at doubling the number of smart cities I have? So it's going to add huge amount of pressure on our urban infrastructure because we have not been prepared, or we are not prepared today in terms of managing this amount of growth and this amount of urbanization. Can we move to the next slide? Okay, the implication of urbanization, rapid urbanization, is of course, requirement for more housing, requirement for more better health, better sanitation, better social infrastructure facilities, better law and order, etc. And the challenge today is, we spoke about demand and supply. One of my earlier speakers spoke about demand and supply. The demand is so high that the supply is struggling to catch up. Let's move to the next slide. In my view, and all the speakers before me spoke as sustainability purely from an environmental standpoint. Okay, and when we look at sustainability, in my view, sustainability has to be more comprehensive. It has to be more encompassing. And hence, sustainability needs to keep in mind the economic sustainability aspect. And I don't know how many money managers are there in the hall. It needs to really take care of financial sustainability. It's very easy to put up a project, but it's very difficult to ensure that the project can go on for the years to come. You know, sustainability also has to focus on safety and security, particularly for cities where citizens are now feeling lesser and lesser secure. It has to focus on safety and security. Of course, we spoke enough and more about environment, you know, water, power, etc. Is of course the key focus on sustainability, but also on development, right? We cannot maintain status quo, and we need to ensure that there is sustainable development as we go forward. Currently, most of our measures are very, very reactive. You know, you look at Bangalore, you know, the roads got congested, so the governments came up with, you know, widening of roads. You know, people are finding mobility challenges, and hence the government came up with metro rail, you know, and hence majority of our solutions, and we are also talking about water saving solutions once we are facing water crisis. Once Niti Aayog has told that we will run out of water by 2021 or 2020, that is when, you know, we are looking and talking about solutions for water conservation, right? So most of our solutions are predominantly reactive. Can we move on? Right, so in our view, any sustainability theme has to work on these pillars or these parameters. One, we have to talk about cohesive planning. I was very happy to hear what Vijay had to present. If you looked at the last model that he showcased, where he spoke about a solar cell, he spoke about a car charging station, he spoke about a water sump, okay, all coming and being put together. That is what I call cohesive planning. The central government today has multiple schemes. It has the Smart City Mission, it has the Amrit Mission, it has the Jal Shakti, the Pani Mission, it has affordable housing schemes, right? But all these need to work together, and that cohesion is extremely essential for us to make sure that sustainability is here to stay. We need strong commitment. I can go on for hours in terms of commitment, but we need strong leadership. And you know, I heard one of our earlier speakers talk about this. With strong leadership, you get strong commitment. You get sustained long-term focus. And very, very important, and I was slightly disappointed that nobody brought this up in the manner it should have been, that, you know, all these need to have very clear financing avenues, right? We are talking about sustainability. We are talking about saving our buildings, our apartment complexes, our cities, but we are not talking about how do we effectively financially plan for them, right? And that's a very, very important resource, and trust me, it's scarce. You can't buy it easily, and financing is very, very important. The other aspect I felt, and a lot of our earlier speakers spoke about it, and you know, I was glad to hear every one of them, is the involvement of the private sector. Government can't do things alone. You know, they neither have the scale nor the ability to innovate at the speed that the private sector can. Okay, you know, there are so many startups. I can see so many visionaries here. I can see so many dreamers here, right? And it is important that we utilize their energy and their passion to find solutions for a sustainable world. And the last thing is on technology. You know, Vinamra again spoke extensively about how Ascendus and CapitaLand are using technology, you know, to make sure that their environments, you know, are analyzed. There's a data-driven solution process, and you know how buildings and environments talk to each other. I think we need to start using this. Technology is democratizing things at a pace much faster than you and I can imagine. So in our view, the holistic solution or the holistic approach for sustainability has to include all of these aspects. Can you go down? So potential solutions to marry urban development and sustainability, which was my topic, was, I was very happy to hear the person from Orange County talk about, is utilization of hinterland synergies, right? He said the local economy, can actually drive tourism. It can add to what is already happening. And that is very important. We are trying to ape the world. Everybody wants to develop a new Singapore. Everyone wants to develop a new Sentosa here. Why? Why can't we recreate an Orange County? Why can't we multiply that here? That's very important. The second thing in our view is a smart monetization of government or public assets. I think public assets are probably not sweat as much as private assets. Private money managers are able to extract every cent to the dollar, but public assets need to really look at how to do that. The third thing, very, very important, and again, I think Vinamra touched upon it as his most important area of topic, is a vision-based master plan. I think our focus on planning is very limited. India is the country of the jugaad, right? And we are very good at firefighting. If we have a problem, we can find quick solutions, but we need a problem to find solutions, right? And hence, we need a vision-backed master plan. Every city, every project, every development needs to have a long-term vision, and it needs to have a very, very clear master plan so that we can talk about sustainability. Of course, environment and safety, I really don't want to spend time because a lot of my earlier speakers spoke about. I want to end my talk with a very, very small story involving Jose. Jose went to Dubai last year for a vacation, and he went to the desert safari on a Friday night, and somehow the Hummer left him behind and reached the city. And Jose woke up in the morning and found himself in the middle of the desert, and he had to find his way back to the city. And he had no mode of transport, so he had to start walking, and it was in the peak of summer. And you know how hot the Middle East is in the summer. So Jose walked for a couple of hours, but really could not sustain, but he had to get back to the city, so he walked longer, right? He walked till he couldn't bear his thirst, and he had to quench his thirst somehow, right? And right in the middle of the desert, he saw a small place which seemed like a well, okay? And somehow, mustering the little bit of energy he had left, he went to that well. And it was actually not a well, there was a hand pump there. People from my generation and people older to me know that India is a country of hand pumps. You use the pump and then water flows out, right? Jose tried the hand pump, but he really didn't get water out of it. And then he was dying of thirst. And then when he turned, he saw a small bottle. And that small bottle, like the bottle on the table, he saw half the bottle filled with water. And there was something written on the bottle. When Jose read it, he saw that, the note said, "Put this water in the pump and the water will come." Jose was in a dilemma. He didn't know whether he had to quench his thirst by drinking the water from the bottle or whether to try what was written on the bottle. Okay, he mustered his courage. He's a good human being. So he said, "Let me try this." And he poured that half bottle of water. Daring his thirst, he poured his half bottle of water in the pump. And to his surprise, the water came out. And Jose was very happy. He quenched his thirst. And then, he left a small note on the bottle by filling it again with half a bottle. He left a small note. He said, "This works." Okay. So, are we going to be selfish and drink the half bottle of water which is available to us today, like all our water conservationists are talking about? Or are we going to be like Jose and replenish the water and leave it for Greta Thunberg? Thank you so much.